The great chamber of the Galactic Council was alive with noise. Hundreds of voices echoed, strange tones and alien laughter bouncing off the golden walls. It was the place where empires ruled the stars, where decisions shaped entire galaxies. Today, however, the noise was not about war or trade. It was about Earth. At the far end of the hall, under the endless glow of floating lights, a single figure walked forward. The human representative moved slowly, steps echoing on the silver floor. The chamber filled with more laughter. Some alien delegates whispered, some laughed openly, others even pounded their claws on the tables in mockery. To them, Earth was a joke. A young planet. A weak planet. A species that had only recently reached the stars. Is this the best they can send? Hissed a reptilian delegate, his scales glowing faint green. A child among giants. A ripple of laughter followed his words. From the back, another alien shouted, "Perhaps Earth is lost and came here by mistake." The hall erupted in howls and screeches of amusement. Every corner of the chamber became louder and louder, like waves of mockery crashing on the human figure. Yet the human did not speak. He did not hurry. He simply walked forward, calm and silent, his face steady, his eyes never leaving the council throne at the center. The more he stayed quiet, the more the council mocked. "Why so silent, human?" asked a tall insectoid creature, clicking its mandibles. "Have your kind forgotten how to speak?" The chamber laughed again, shaking with cruel delight. But then, something strange happened. For the first time, the human spoke. His voice was not loud, but it carried, echoing in a way that seemed unnatural, as if the chamber itself wanted every word to be heard. He said only one sentence. "You will not laugh for long." Silence fell for a single breath. The words hung in the air, sharp and heavy. For a moment, even the most arrogant alien froze. But then, the laughter returned, louder than before, as if they had just heard the funniest joke in history. The chamber shook with noise once again. "Did you hear that? The little human thinks he can threaten us," roared a tusked warlord, slamming his fist on the table. "You are dust compared to our fleets," shouted another. The laughter became crueler, like knives in the air, echoing again and again. The human remained still, his eyes calm, his hands folded behind his back. He did not argue. He did not shout. He let them laugh. But inside the silence of his stillness, there was something unspoken, something none of them understood. In the highest seat of the chamber, the council speaker, a massive figure covered in gold armor, raised his hand to silence the crowd. "Enough," the speaker thundered. "Earth, you are young. You are small. You are nothing in this council. Your voice carries no weight here. You will listen. You will obey." His voice carried power, shaking the chamber with authority. The alien delegates banged the tables in agreement. Earth was small. Earth was weak. The council laughed again, louder and louder, drowning the chamber in their mockery. And yet, the human did not look broken. He only lowered his head slightly, as if waiting, as if measuring the sound of every cruel laugh. His silence was unsettling, but no one noticed. They were too busy laughing. What none of them knew, what none of them could imagine, was that outside this chamber, far from the shining walls of the council's world, silence was already moving. Ships that left no signal, weapons that left no trace, shadows in the dark, things that had followed the human here, waiting patiently. In the chamber, the laughter still roared, but something unseen had already begun. The laughter did not end quickly. It rolled across the chamber like a storm of voices, but beneath the noise, a single pair of eyes had stopped laughing. They belonged to the oldest race in the council, the Valor, a species older than many suns, with pale skin that glowed faintly and eyes like molten silver. The Valor delegate leaned forward, his long fingers pressing against the table. While the others jeered, his eyes studied the human. Something was wrong. Something in those words, in that silence. "You will not laugh for long." They were not spoken like a threat. They were spoken like a truth. The Valor had lived long enough to know when a voice carried weight. His gaze shifted across the chamber, but no one else seemed to notice. The human remained silent, watching, waiting, standing alone against hundreds. When the council session ended, the laughter still lingered like poison in the air. Many species mocked Earth even outside the chamber. They called humans weak, fragile, unworthy of the stars. But whispers began to move among the shadows. Some delegates remembered stories. Old stories. The kind of tales shared in hushed tones, dismissed as rumor. Whispers of human wars. Whispers of impossible survival. How a small planet once resisted invasions from empires far stronger. How they fought wars not with numbers, but with something different, something no other species had. Curiosity spread. Some wanted proof. Some wanted answers. And some wanted to erase the question before it became a danger. That night, under the black sky of the Council's world, the first Watchers were sent to spy on Earth. Small scout ships, cloaked and hidden, slipped into human space. They expected to see weakness. They expected to see scattered colonies, old ships, fragile defenses. Instead, they found something else. At the edge of human space, floating near the ruins of a long-forgotten battle, they saw wreckage. Not human wreckage. Alien wreckage. Whole fleets, shattered and broken, drifting in silence. The markings were clear, they belonged to other empires. Empires that had once tested Earth. But their fleets had not returned. The scouts sent messages back, warning of strange findings. But before their reports were finished, silence claimed them. The signals ended without a trace. The ships were gone. Vanished. The Council received only fragments of their last transmission, words cut with static. Destroyed, impossible, silence everywhere. The message ended there. Panic touched the edges of the council chambers. Some said it was just malfunction. Others laughed again, saying humans got lucky. But the Valor did not laugh. His silver eyes watched the human seat, still calm, still waiting. On the third day, one delegate went missing. He was from the Garath, a warlike race, known for their cruelty. He had boasted too loudly in the chamber, calling Earth a child species. He was last seen boarding his ship. Then, nothing. No trace. His people screamed for answers, demanded an investigation, but none was found. The only thing discovered was a final signal, caught by a nearby relay. A single word. Silence. The chamber grew uneasy. Whispers spread faster now. Rumors grew like fire. Some said Earth had a weapon that erased ships without sound. Others said Earth had no weapon at all, that silence itself followed them, like a shadow, like a curse. Still, the loudest voices refused to believe. They mocked even harder, desperate to bury their fear under laughter. But behind the mocking, tension grew. The Speaker of the Council called for another session, demanding Earth explain itself. As the human walked into the chamber again, all eyes turned to him. Some glared with anger, some with fear, some with cold curiosity. The laughter was softer this time, weaker, forced. The human said nothing, only stood in the center, as still as stone. His silence seemed heavier now, pressing against every corner of the hall. The Valor delegate leaned forward once again, whispering softly so only his aides could hear. "This is not silence of weakness," he said. "This is silence of power." His words spread among his people like a hidden fire. And though the chamber was still filled with noise, somewhere deep in the hearts of the council, the first seeds of fear had already begun to grow. The council did not wait long before sending more eyes toward Earth. The missing scouts and the vanished Garath delegate could not be ignored. To the proud empires, admitting fear was impossible, so they cloaked their suspicion in the language of control. They declared they would observe Earth, study Earth, and guide Earth into the council system. In truth, they were hunting for weakness. Dozens of hidden ships were dispatched to human space. They carried the most advanced scanners, spies trained to disappear into shadows, and machines designed to pierce any secret. What they found only deepened the silence. Along the borders of Earth's territory, they saw strange scars in space. Wreckage hung in the void, twisted and burned, belonging to ships from at least 5 different species. The metal bore the marks of recent battles, yet no battle reports had ever reached the Council. More worrying was the state of the wreckage. Most ships had no signs of weapons fire. They were just broken, as if crushed by invisible hands. Engines split. Hulls torn. Crews gone. The spies sent the images back, and the council chamber buzzed with uneasy whispers. Some refused to believe it. Earth could not have done this, one delegate barked. They have no fleets strong enough. Others muttered that perhaps another power was hiding behind Earth, using humans as a mask. Yet no other empire claimed those battles, and no one could explain how fleets could vanish so completely. The Valor delegate watched in silence, his silver eyes heavy with thought. Meanwhile, the hidden watchers pushed deeper into human territory. They found colonies, but they were not what they expected. These colonies were small, spread thin, but they were hard, tough, and quiet. The humans there did not live in fear. They looked up at the sky with calm eyes, as if they already knew someone was watching. One spy ship approached too close. It never returned. Its last message was a single burst of static and then nothing. Gone. Erased. Silence. Panic grew among the spies. They began to pull back, afraid that something unseen was hunting them. But one of the scout leaders, desperate to prove his courage, ordered a secret descent onto Earth's homeworld itself. He sent cloaked probes into the atmosphere, circling the blue planet, watching its oceans and cities. What he saw made his blood freeze. In orbit, hidden among the shadows of the moon, something enormous moved. At first he thought it was rock, but then lights flickered along its edges. It was a ship. A human ship, but nothing like the small crafts listed in the Council's records. It was vast, armored, silent. Its surface seemed black, almost invisible against space, swallowing every signal sent its way. His scanners showed no energy, no weapons, no power signatures, yet his eyes could see it. A ghost in orbit, waiting. Terrified, he tried to pull back, but his ship never left Earth's skies. He and his crew were never heard from again. Only one fragment of data reached the Council, hidden in static. A single image of the black ship, half-formed, as if the universe itself refused to show it fully. When the Council saw the image, the chamber erupted. Some shouted it was fake. Others claimed it was proof of human deception. The speaker roared for silence, but the hall was filled with fear now. The laughter that once filled the chamber was weaker, fragile, like broken glass under too much weight. And then the news came that shook the Council even more. Another delegate had gone missing. This time it was from the Carrick's Dominion, a proud empire that had sworn to crush Earth's arrogance. Their delegate had been investigating the human colonies personally, sending back messages filled with mockery. His last report said only one thing: they are not what they seem. Hours later, his ship was gone. The Carricks roared in anger, demanding blood, demanding war, demanding Earth pay. But the speaker hesitated. For the first time, hesitation was clear in his voice. War against Earth sounded simple, but what if the whispers were true? What if silence itself was a weapon? In the shadows of the chamber, the Valor delegate leaned back, whispering to himself. They are not showing power. They are hiding it. They are letting us laugh while silence takes everything. His silver eyes never left the human seat, where the Earth's representative still sat, quiet, calm, waiting, as if he already knew what would happen next. The chamber was restless when the human entered again. Whispers spread through the Council like cold wind. Delegates who once roared with laughter now lowered their voices, some casting uneasy glances, others gripping the edges of their seats. The speaker's golden armor glowed in the light as he raised his hand for silence, though the silence was already heavy. Earth, he said, voice shaking with a weight he had not shown before. You have been accused of deception. Fleets have gone missing. Delegates have vanished. You will answer. The human representative stepped forward. His face was calm, his movements measured, as though he carried no fear in a hall where hundreds of worlds could demand his death. For a long moment he said nothing, letting the weight of the silence grow. Then, his voice broke through, soft but unshakable. "You laugh at us because you do not understand. But laughter will not save you. You ask for answers? I will give you one. You have no idea what silence means." His words fell like a blade, sharp and final. The chamber stiffened. Some delegates hissed in anger, others whispered nervously, but no one laughed this time. The Valor delegate leaned forward, his silver eyes gleaming with recognition, as if those words confirmed his deepest fear. "What does that mean?" demanded a tusked warlord, his voice shaking more than he wanted. "Are you threatening the council?" The human did not move. "It is not a threat. It is a truth." His eyes scanned the chamber, steady, calm. "You believe power is measured in ships, in weapons, in numbers. You have no understanding of what we are. Humanity is not power you can count. We are silence that endures." Some shouted at him, calling him a liar, calling Earth a parasite hiding in shadows. But his words clung to the chamber like a storm cloud that refused to move. The speaker slammed his hand down. "Enough," he thundered. "Earth, you will not speak in riddles. You will tell us what this silence is, or we will strip your world from the stars." For the first time, the human smiled. It was not cruel. It was not warm. It was the smile of someone who already knew the ending of a story. "You will see," he said. "And when you do, it will already be too late." Murmurs filled the chamber, rising like a wave of fear. The Valor delegate whispered to his aides, "Do not mock them. Do not provoke them. They are not bluffing." But the warning was ignored. Pride still ruled the chamber, even as fear gnawed at the edges. In the days that followed, the galaxy's oldest records were searched. Fragments of history, long buried, spoke of strange disappearances near human space. Fleets erased without sound, colonies falling into void without battle. Every story ended the same way, in silence. The council tried to dismiss it as coincidence, but the stories piled higher, too many to ignore. And beyond the council's walls, movement began. Across the stars, human fleets stirred. They did not broadcast signals, they did not show weapons, they did not announce themselves with power. They simply moved, shadows gliding through space, silent as death. Some empires spotted the movement and panicked, sending warnings to the council. Others laughed nervously, pretending nothing was wrong. But the truth was spreading like fire. Something was coming. And then, one night, the council's own systems flickered. Across the chamber, lights dimmed for a single heartbeat. The sound of the delegates' voices stopped as if swallowed by invisible hands. The silence was so deep, so heavy, it felt alive. When the lights returned, everything was as it had been. Yet no one spoke for several seconds. The silence left its mark, cold and sharp. The speaker ordered an immediate investigation. His voice shook, betraying the fear he could no longer hide. Across the galaxy, fleets prepared for war, but they did not know whom they were truly preparing against. In the human seat, the representative said nothing more. He simply watched the chamber with patient eyes, as if he could already hear the sound of their laughter dying. And somewhere in the dark between the stars, a voice moved through encrypted channels, a message from Earth to every human ship: silence is coming. The council met again under heavy tension, the air thick with fear though many tried to hide it under pride. Delegates sat straighter, their voices sharper, their threats louder, but none of it erased the memory of the silence that had passed through the chamber days before. When the human representative entered, the noise dropped lower than ever before. He walked with the same calm steps, hands behind his back, eyes steady, as if nothing around him mattered. The speaker rose, his golden armor shining but his voice less certain than in the past. "Earth," he said, "you dare to threaten the council with riddles. We are not afraid of words. If you have power, show it. If not, admit your weakness before we erase you from the stars." His words drew cheers from a few proud species, but many others remained quiet, their eyes flicking nervously toward the human. For the first time, the human spoke without waiting. "You wish for proof? Then listen carefully. Do not look at me. Look above you." Confusion spread. Delegates muttered, some raising their heads, others scoffing. "Nothing is there," one insectoid delegate snapped. But then, alarms rang through the chamber. A guard rushed in, pale and shaking, his voice breaking as he spoke. "The warship in orbit. It's gone." At first the words made no sense. The speaker slammed his fist against the table. "What do you mean gone?" "Destroyed." The guard shook his head. "Not destroyed. Not attacked. Gone. No explosion. No trace. One moment it was there, the next moment it was nothing." Chaos erupted. Delegates shouted over one another, some demanding answers, others accusing Earth, others trying to calm their allies. The human did not move. His voice cut through the storm like a blade. "That ship laughed at us when it arrived. Now it is silent." His eyes swept across the hall, steady, unblinking. "Do you understand now?" But understanding only brought more fear. The Garath roared for war, spitting fury at the human. "Cowards! You use tricks. Illusions. You cannot face us directly." The Carracks joined the cry, pounding their armored fists. "This is not power. This is cowardice." Yet their voices were thinner than before, their threats less certain. The Valor delegate leaned forward, his silver eyes shining. "No," he whispered, though his words carried through the chamber. "This is not cowardice. This is control." His statement chilled the hall. The human nodded slightly, as though confirming the Valor's words. Then, in that same calm voice, he spoke again. "Laughter has no power. Ships, weapons, numbers, none of it matters when silence arrives. You will learn this, one by one, until the galaxy listens." Suddenly, every delegate's personal communicator flickered. At first, they thought it was malfunction, but then words appeared, written in a cold, unchanging script. "Your silence will protect you. Your laughter will end you." Gasps filled the chamber. Some delegates tore the devices from their wrists, others tried to shut them off, but the message remained, glowing with a presence that could not be erased. The speaker roared, demanding his guards trace the signal, but the guards only shook their heads. "It came from nowhere," they stammered. "No source. No origin." Fear spread like fire. The chamber that once shook with laughter now shook with panic. Some demanded Earth be imprisoned immediately, others screamed for fleets to be gathered, but many sat frozen, staring at the message that still glowed on their devices. The human said nothing more. He turned and walked toward the exit, his steps slow, steady, unhurried. No one stopped him. No one dared. When the heavy doors closed behind him, the chamber erupted again, not with laughter but with desperate voices filled with fear and rage. The Valor remained silent, his gaze fixed on the empty seat Earth had left behind. He knew now that the galaxy had entered a new age, and that silence would no longer be weakness. It would be the most dangerous weapon of all. Fear spread faster than light across the galaxy after the Council's warship vanished without a trace. The news could not be hidden, not when hundreds of delegates had heard the alarm with their own ears, not when every communicator in the chamber had shown the same message. Within days, empires that once mocked Earth began to whisper in the dark. Some tried to deny what had happened, telling their people it was only a trick or a malfunction, but even they trembled in secret. Entire fleets were ordered to stay near their homeworlds, borders sealed, trade routes closed. The silence had become a shadow in every heart. In the council chamber, arguments turned into chaos. Some demanded Earth be destroyed before their silence spread further, others begged for peace, and some simply stared at the human seat in terror, waiting for it to fill again. But it did not. The human delegate no longer came. The chair remained empty, yet it felt more powerful than any throne in the hall. Every time eyes fell on it, the room grew quiet. Rumors grew worse with each passing day. Miners on the edge of Bracken space reported hearing nothing on their comms for hours, as if the stars themselves had gone deaf, only to return and discover one of their stations missing. The Carrick's Dominion lost 3 patrol ships in a single night, their last report nothing but static. On distant colonies, lights flickered in the skies, followed by days of unbroken silence. Fear turned into panic. Civilizations that had mocked Earth began sending secret envoys to beg for their protection. They offered trade, alliances, even tribute, hoping to be spared the fate of those who had laughed too loudly. But others, proud and blind, still clung to their power. They gathered fleets, forging secret plans to strike Earth before it grew stronger. They whispered in shadowed halls, but even their voices sounded thin, stripped of confidence. Every empire felt watched, as though unseen eyes studied their every move. In the chamber, the speaker roared for unity, but his voice no longer carried weight. Delegates bickered, screamed, and shouted, but silence always returned, heavier than before. And then one day, the chamber itself was touched. The lights dimmed again, just as they had before, but this time they did not flicker back so quickly. 7 long heartbeats, the chamber drowned in absolute silence. No voices, no movement, not even the hum of the machines. Delegates froze, their eyes wide, their hearts pounding. Some tried to shout, but no sound left their mouths. It was as if the universe itself had gone still. When the lights returned and sound rushed back into existence, panic exploded. Several delegates collapsed in terror. Others fled the chamber. The speaker demanded an investigation, but everyone knew the truth. It was not a malfunction. It was a warning. Whispers spread through the galaxy that silence was alive, that Earth had unleashed something that could move anywhere, anytime, without warning. Whole empires began to crumble under the weight of fear. Soldiers deserted their posts, civilians fled cities, and leaders whispered about surrender before war had even begun. The galaxy's laughter had died, replaced by shaking voices and trembling hearts. But Earth did not speak. No messages came from their world, no answers from their ships. The human seat in the council stayed empty, yet its shadow grew longer every day. Delegates feared the moment it would be filled again, but they feared even more that it might never be. For if Earth no longer needed to sit among them, it meant they were no longer equals. They were prey. In the silent corridors of the council's capital, the Valor delegate walked alone, his silver eyes heavy with thought. To his aides, he finally whispered, "We laughed at them. Now we are waiting to be erased. The silence has already won." The galaxy stood on the edge of collapse when the council gathered for the last time. The chamber was not the same as before. Where once it had been filled with loud voices and mocking laughter, now it was heavy with dread. Delegates sat stiff and pale, their eyes darting to the human seat that still stood empty, its shadow stretching longer than ever. Fleets had vanished in silence, colonies had gone dark, entire worlds reported nights where the stars themselves fell quiet, and not a single empire had found a way to fight it. Fear ruled every system. Yet the proud among them clung to their pride. The Garath demanded war, slamming their claws against the tables. The Carricks shouted for revenge, their tusks gleaming as they roared that Earth must be destroyed. But even their words cracked with fear, their eyes betraying the doubt in their hearts. Then the lights dimmed again. The chamber froze. Not a voice rose, not a sound dared to move. For 10 long heartbeats there was nothing, no hum of power, no whisper of breath, only a silence so deep it pressed against the bones of every creature present. When the lights returned, something had changed. The human seat was no longer empty. The representative sat there, calm as always, his hands folded, his eyes steady, as if he had never left. The chamber erupted in panic, some delegates shouting, some collapsing, some trying to flee, but the doors were sealed. The human's voice cut through their terror, quiet but unbreakable. "We asked for respect. You gave us laughter. Now you will learn silence." His words fell like a sentence carved into stone. The speaker rose, his golden armor trembling with his movement, but no words came. His mouth opened, but nothing emerged. His voice was gone. He clutched his throat, horror on his face, as the chamber erupted again. Delegates screamed, but half of them found their voices stolen, their cries lost to the silence that grew like a living thing. Across the galaxy, at that same moment, fleets powered down without warning. Weapons went dark. Engines froze. Ships drifted powerless in space, their crews hammering at controls that no longer answered. On colonies, alarms blared once, then died, leaving only silence where life had been. Entire worlds froze in terror as the silence spread, swallowing sound, swallowing power, swallowing everything. Back in the chamber, the human did not move. He simply watched as the galaxy's leaders broke under their own fear. Some fell to their knees, begging for mercy. Some clawed at their consoles, trying to send desperate messages, but all channels were dead. The only sound left was the human's voice, calm, steady, final. Your fleets are nothing. Your weapons are nothing. Your numbers are nothing. You believed silence was weakness. Now silence is all you will know. The delegates stared in horror, knowing the truth too late. This was not war. This was not invasion. This was control. And it was already complete. One by one, the voices in the chamber fell quiet, not because they chose silence, but because silence had chosen them. The speaker collapsed to his knees, his golden armor clattering uselessly against the floor. His eyes met the human's, wide and broken, but he could not speak. The human stood at last, his voice carrying through the chamber, through every system, through every world in the galaxy. The age of laughter is over. The age of silence has begun. And then he was gone. The seat was empty once more, but the silence remained, pressing against every wall, every star, every heart. From that day forward, the council no longer laughed. From that day forward, the galaxy no longer mocked Earth. For laughter had been erased, and silence ruled the stars.